Coach Jesse at Ascend Fitness. We're taking a deep dive into the macronutrients. We're going to talk all about fats, carbs, and protein. Do we need carbs? What role do they play? I want you to think about a car. You could divide what the car is made out of into three categories. All right, the gasoline, that's energy. That makes the car go. The metal and the glass and the plastic, that's like the physical structure, the chassis and the main components of the car. That's the structural category. And then there's systems, like the battery and the filters and the oil. These are things that keep everything running smooth. They have to be replaced, here and there. They're kind of out of the picture, but if they're not in good working order, then you start having major problems. Well, these same categories can be applied to the physical body. And these are just ways of thinking about the function that the different nutrients that you eat play in your body. We're thinking about this because when we begin thinking about food and what we're eating, we want to know how it's affecting our body. How is my body going to use or not use this? How is this beneficial or how is it not? So just as an example, if you think about the systems of your body, that's things like vitamins, minerals, water, neurotransmitters. Those are things where if you've ever had like a mineral deficiency, it starts messing stuff up pretty quick, even though it's not something that normally you think about. Structures, these are the big visible things. Your skin, your bones, your teeth, hair, skin, nails, those types of things. Your muscles, the actual tissue that all your organs are made out of. And remember, your body is constantly remodeling. And if you're exercising, it's really remodeling joints and bones and muscle and the insides of muscles like the mitochondria and stuff like that. It's really remodeling those a lot. Your brain and the tissue in your brain, all that, it has to be made out of something. And because it's constantly remodeling, renewing itself, it has to get those nutrients from your food. And then the last category would be energy. So think about all the ways that your body burns energy. Your brain is constantly working even when you're asleep. Your heart is beating, your lungs are working. You produce body heat, every time you go to move. Even the process of maintaining the cells of your body, that requires an energy investment. So your body is burning quite a bit of calories in that energy category. So that's the fuel of your body. So now the question is, well, what nutrients do what? That's a great question to ask. Again, we want to make wise decisions on what we eat. It's good to know what does what. Now, here's what's really interesting. So we have protein, fats, and carbs, and we're going to take a deep dive into what these do. So this is going to be a detailed module. Something I just want to point out is your body things that are structure, for example, if you're starving, it can take muscle tissue and break it down and turn it into energy to keep your heart beating. And it will do that. Remember, the body just wants to be in survival mode. This is going to come up later. So we have our 5 macronutrients: water, fiber, protein, carbs, and fat. Water, you just got to drink it. I know people don't like how it lacks taste and all that, but you just make sure you drink water. That's literally all I'm saying about water. Fiber is the undigestible part of plant foods. And there's carnivore people that make a claim that you don't really need fiber. You can make claim that it does help your cholesterol. It does help your digestive system. I will say that a side benefit of fiber, because your body, it's literally the cellulose, the tissue, it is undigestible. There is calories in it, but we don't have the parts to break it down. It literally just passes through us. However, when it's in your intestines, the flora, your biome, your bacteria that lives in you that helps break down food, that feeds off of fiber. So that those little bacteria can break down that cellulose and they need it. They eat it. So that is one reason why I would say that I think fiber has some virtue in that respect. Here's some of the main qualities that we think of when we're trying to change our body and we're thinking about how food interplays with that. So the thermic effect of feeding is if any energy is required to get the energy or get the nutrients out of the food. So protein has a high thermic effect, and it's really about 30%, meaning if you eat 100 calories of protein, you're only netting 70 calories of that. You're still getting all the nutrition. It just took a 30 calorie investment to get the 100 calories of nutrients out. This is really good from like a weight loss perspective. It means when you eat protein, you actually burn calories eating the protein. Also, protein is the highest in terms of satiation. One is because animal meat, it has water in it, so it physically takes up room. Two, it's a more complicated molecule. Now, carbs are kind of like a lentil I like because it has a lot of protein and fiber in it along with the carbohydrates. So it can be a little bit more satiating and have a slightly more, thermic effect of feeding than just normal carbs. But those are few, and I almost don't even really include them on this. Calories per gram, we have to keep in mind. So in 1 gram of fat, there's way more energy in it than protein or carbs. Now, functions, this is speaking to the systems, the structures, and the energy. Fats and proteins can be used for all three categories. Now, I want to say that when we talk about systems, we're typically just talking about like micronutrients, vitamins, minerals. It just is that animal products will be supplying fats and proteins, meaning if I'm saying, hey, I need to eat fats and proteins, and I eat an animal product, an egg, a piece of meat, liver, that's going to have fat and protein in it, and it's going to have a lot of micronutrients, especially like an egg or dairy or liver, I'm a big fan of. Carbs, though, its primary function is just energy. There are some like B vitamins and different things that are found in like the carb like category of plant foods. However, those things are also found in the same foods that supply fats and proteins, the animal side of things. And the other thing is there's only 3 structures that I know of that involve carbohydrates, and those are glycolipids, glycoproteins, and proteoglycans. What I'm saying is that there's very, 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 very few structures in your body that are made out of carbohydrates. All the other structural stuff is made out of fats and proteins. So this is just kind of illustrating what are the most valuable nutrients to get. It's obviously fats and proteins. Now, you might say, well, what about all the energy stuff? Yes, carbs supply that, but also if your body needs carbohydrates, it can create its own carbohydrates. It can create glucose from fats and proteins and burn it as energy, just like how glucose is burned. Carbs has an insulin response, so this we do have to keep in mind from a weight loss or weight gain perspective is what we're doing around glucose or around insulin. Now, this is a good topic to consider is protein sparing. Protein sparing is where you prevent yourself from going catabolic. So before a workout or after a workout, I do think it's advisable to have protein and carbs together, maybe like 10 to 15 grams of each, something like that. That's what I do personally, will keep you from biting into already built muscle. Insulin is an anabolic hormone, and this is released when sugar increases. If I'm a green, I can use insulin to my advantage to build up. If I'm a blue, I really want to eat in a way that doesn't spike my insulin because then I'm more likely to store that food that I'm eating as a fat if I don't need it in my body. All right, these are food categories, not macronutrients. However, these food categories have those macronutrients in them. But primarily, we have 4 major food categories: protein, fats, carbs, and vegetables. I really prefer the leafy green vegetables. Those are cruciferous vegetables: broccoli, kale, spinach, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, collard greens. Well, based on that list, we know that proteins and fats when you eat foods that have that in it, that speaks to everything. And then leafy green vegetables, that's really going to supply a lot of like phytonutrients and vitamins and minerals that you need for the system side of things. So between leafy green vegetables, proteins, and fats, you have all the bases covered. So then what's the role of carbs? Like I said, carbs do add some vitamins and minerals, but it's nothing that you can't get from protein and fats. I'm not saying don't eat carbs. I'm just saying if you only had to pick a couple ingredients, carbs is the last on the list because everything that it does is covered by other categories, but it can't do what the other categories do. So for me, when I'm thinking about my priorities for the day, one, I'm thinking about structure. I need to maintain muscle and my body's constantly remodeling, so I need fats and proteins for that. I also want to not get sick and run out of vitamins and minerals. So those micronutrients are coming from fats and proteins, but they're also coming from fresh vegetables, specifically cruciferous leafy green vegetables. If I accidentally overeat just in those categories, my body can use that stuff for energy. Now, I may want more energy, or I may not want a headache, or I may not want to go into ketosis. So I'm going to eat carbs as energy, but that's the last one on the list. If we're just thinking minimally, like what's the minimal thing so I can get through the day? But we have to be thinking like that, especially from a weight loss perspective. So when we're talking about what does the day look like, now we are going to go deeper into this, but we have to be planning around what you need, especially at different times of the day. So we definitely need to introduce that protein and fat throughout the day, but carbs, that doesn't need to be eaten at every meal. You know, if we're using carbs as just an energy source, I'm probably not eating as many carbs as what the average American does. And I'm only doing that in maybe like, the morning before, maybe after a workout. I maybe don't need to in the evening. Or if I'm doing some intermittent fasting or something like that, I'm not having them in the morning. Those categories, we break them down into these portions from Precision Nutrition. We're going to do a deeper dive on this, but this is how you know what your meal looks like. If you follow this, you don't have to count calories because these are just, representative of, hey, if you eat approximately this size, you're going to get the right amount of nutrients that you need. And remember, this all fits with our bottom up, our body then mind approach. We need to satisfy our body first, and then we're worried about our own preferences second. You've probably heard perhaps 1 gram per pound of body weight for protein. The easiest way to accomplish this, and 1 gram per pound is great, but for a lot of people, that's way beyond what they're already eating. So what I've found is if I focus on getting 25 to 30 grams per portion of protein, and if I do that 3 to 4 times a day, I'm in business. And then I might be injecting, like before a workout or between meals, a small snack that might include protein, carb, and fat, or maybe just protein. And I'm looking at 10 to 15 grams. If I do that, chances are I'm getting exactly what my body needs. So our takeaways are, we're looking at the day, and I'm looking through and planning, I need a protein at each meal. I need a protein. I need a protein. That's keeping me full. That's giving me sustained energy. Then I need those micronutrient sources, the leafy green vegetables. Maybe that's only twice in the day, maybe only once. That's probably fine. And then I need carbs, maybe not at every meal, but I need to think about when I need that boost of energy, especially 2 or 3 p.m. It's nice to have that little pick me up.